Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Thank you all for coming here. What a joy. It's really, really a joy. Let's begin with just chanting Om for a few minutes. And if I can, I don't know how you're used to chanting Om, but there's no really set rules, which is the good news about chanting Om. But one of the ways I like to do this is we all start, and then when you end, just start again. Don't wait for the next person to start. Just all flow together with it. And what happens is there's this beautiful harmony that starts to be created, because everybody's tone is a little bit different, everybody's way of pronouncing a little bit different. And when we listen, because this is the beginning of relationship, when we begin to listen, everything sounds a little bit different, yet all the same. So when we do this, we'll just continue, let it continue as long as it would like. And then when it fades away, listen. Listen to the sound after the sound. Okay? So if the sound unites us, the silence unites us even more. So let's just have a nice posture. And if you will, tilt your chin back just a tiny bit and feel your heart and your throat expand. Take in a deep breath and let it out very slowly, and feel yourself relax. And once again, we begin to inhale. Om Shanti. 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 Namaste. And now namaste to each other. Yeah. When we begin to talk about relationship, it's a very, very complex idea. Because who are we in relationship with? There's so much to be in relationship with. So in the beginning, as I sit here, you're in relationship with me and I'm in relationship with you. And the namaste means when I'm in that place of oneness and you're in that place of oneness, we are one. Otherwise, we're two. We're one. Namaste at the heart. Also, you're in relationship with each other. So honoring that place in each other. And from there, it just continues. When we talk about healing, which I talk about a great deal these days, because we all seem to need healing. What does that mean? What does the word healing really mean? Well, if we go back to the derivation of the word, it's almost identical to the word yoga, the meaning. It means to bring together, to bring back, to go back to the origin, to make whole again that which has not been whole. This is also yoga. Yoga is the uniting of consciousness back in its home in the heart. Yoga, chitta, vritti, nirodha. So when we talk about healing, it means bringing everything back. And when we talk about healing in relationship, it means making that whole also. Not having the separate, not having something here but not here. So our primary relationship is with ourself. It has to be with ourself. Which self? All of ourselves. Firstly, with our divine self. That's the primary relationship. According to yoga, that's what it says healing is about. Getting back to the primary relationship in a very simple way to remember who we are. Because most of us forgot. Somewhere along the line, oops, I forgot who I was. And the more we forget, the more we forget. That's what happens. So somewhere along the line, we have to begin to remember. Who are we? And begin to unite and heal that relationship with our higher self. It's very difficult in our world to remember who we are. Don't you think? Yeah. There's so much outside. From the minute we're born, there's an identification put on us other than our divine self. I don't know how many of you have been at births other than your own, which you probably don't remember, but some people might. But the idea that when you first come out of your mother, already the identification begins. Nowadays, of course, they have all these modern ways of telling. But before, when someone came out of the mother, the first thing they said is, "What is it?" Right? What is it? Oh, quick, tell me what it is. Because we can't stand to think that there's no identification with this. Right? And someone would say, oh, it's a baby. Well, of course it's a baby. I know it's a baby, but what kind of baby is it? And at that moment, barely are we free from our mother. We're still attached to her cord. Already the identification has begun. Oh, it's a girl. Oh no, I painted the room blue. What am I going to do? I have to go back and repaint it. It's a boy. Oh no, I just bought all these dolls. What am I going to do? And the identification starts with that. And even at that early age, the world is pulling us away from our primary relationship that he has neither a he or a she attached to it, but is the one. And from there on, it just gets worse. Here we go from there. Right? You can't do that. What are you going to be when you grow up? How many people ask a 5-year-old what they're going to be when they grow up? They don't even know the concept of growing up. So somehow, as we gather, and as you gather in this incredible place, it's here to remind us. All these wonderful pictures around us are just here to remind us of one thing. What is that? You're shaking your head. What is that? Yes. It's here. It's us. The divine isn't anywhere else because what we know is reflected outward. There's something in yoga that's very interesting that they call it the varnas. Have you heard that expression? They call the mind and the thoughts varnas. And the word varna actually means color. So varna is color. And as we grow into these identifications, the color of our minds change. Now, what does that mean? So, for instance, let's take something simple. Don't go even to the mind. Let's take colored glasses. So, if I go out in the sun and I'm wearing colored glasses, and say the glass, sometimes you see they're yellow. Do you ever see yellow sunglasses? Yeah. So we're walking around, and everything then looks yellow, right? If I'm looking at pink, everything looks pink. This is what happens with the mind. If we start identifying at an early age with that which is outside of us and not which is within us, those varnas color everything. So in my relationship with you, it's really very little about you. It's about my mind reflecting who I think I am onto you. A little frightening, don't you think that is? And I always laugh too, because sometimes, and those of you who are teachers, how many of you are teachers in here? Most of you. Mm-hmm. Because most of us are teachers in some way. We teach people something. And then people project things on you. How many of you are in a committed relationship with another person? How many of you project onto that person? Yeah, because this is what we do. This is what we do. This is the color of our minds. So when we can get that color clear white, clear, simple, and that comes with beginning to know who we are. I know who I am. I'm a divine being. If I know that, there's only one answer to who you are. You're also a divine being. You've heard the expression, only a thief knows another thief? Yeah. If you're a dishonest person, you're going to think everybody else is dishonest. You can look at the locks on people's doors, and you can tell something from that. If I trust and I know I'm not going to take anything, I wouldn't do something in a contract to somebody, I wouldn't do that. I then would assume that they wouldn't do it to me. Because the color of my mind is like that. And as babies, we have clear minds. That's why babies trust. Only when we get older do we not trust. And the more the lack of trust goes, the greater that illusion becomes, the greater that color of the mind comes. So in this relationship, we always go back to the primary, us and the divine. And then we get into the individual self. And the individual self can have that purity of the other. However, it changes because you put identification on it. So after the boy or girl, then we have son or daughter. Then we have, this person is nice to play with, this person is not. Well, why is that? Oh, because you're this and this don't go together. So then you start to say, oh, everybody who has green hair, I can't play with anymore because it doesn't go with my purple hair. Right? And this is where we start to get into this conflict, and the relationship to the whole world changes. We have a relationship with nature. It's not doing very well these days. We've taken advantage of the mother. She is deciding now, how do I treat my children? They seem to be treating me so unkind. What do I do? And then we're suddenly surprised when she does something that's letting us know she's not happy. Instead, what happens if we enter into a sacred relationship once again with our mother? I remember at a time I was walking with my teacher, Swami Satchidananda, and we were in a park somewhere. I don't remember where in the world it was. Doesn't matter. And he had been talking to us about ahimsa, about the idea of having reverence and love for everything and everyone. Very difficult concept. We all have heard of ahimsa, and probably all practice it in some way, but know the difficulty of it. And part of our training in ahimsa was we did not walk on the grass unless it was absolutely necessary, because there are so many living creatures in there that each time, imagine if a giant foot suddenly came down upon us right now, how we would feel, right? It would be frightening to us. So the idea of ahimsa, having love and respect and reverence for all, this was not something we did. So if possible, you stayed, as they say, on the path. On this particular day, for some reason, as teachers tend to do, Swamiji veered from his way of doing things. Normally, he would have walked along the path. And he cut right directly across the lawn. Well, of course, we, like little ducklings, followed him across the path. And I'm thinking, why is he doing this? He told us very clearly, don't walk on the grass, you're hurting all these little creatures, not to mention the grass itself. Why is he doing this? Well, you never knew. So I decided there was some teaching in this, and I wanted to observe him. So I watched him, and as he walked and as he stepped on the grass, as soon as he lifted his foot, the grass popped back up. I thought, well, that's interesting. So I kept watching him. Same thing happened. He'd step, and the grass would pop up. So I started looking down at my own feet, and I looked and said, grass isn't popping back up under my feet, and I weigh half what he weighs. I looked at the other people around me, same thing, flat grass. Well, I couldn't let this go. So finally I caught up with him and I said, Gurudev, I want to ask you something. Yes, I said, why is it when you walk, your foot comes up and the grass pops up. When I walk, the grass stays down and I weigh half as what you do. And he looked at me and he stopped and he turned around and he said, "This is my mother's bosom. When I walk on this earth, that's how I feel. I would never do anything to hurt her. She knows that. When my foot goes down, I have that love and reverence for her. When it comes back up, the grass comes back up. When you have that reverence for the mother, the grass will also come back up under your feet." I can still feel how I felt at that moment. How many of us feel that when we walk? This is the bosom of our mother. With that love and respect, can you walk? Can you, when you use a piece of paper, anything that we do, can we have that respect? This is not an easy thing to be yogis. You realize that? It's much easier to do some other path that you just have to go somewhere on Sunday. I always wondered how easy this would be. Or even Saturday or Friday. This is full-time job. You know? So I have to think now every time I walk on the grass that this is my mother's bosom? Yes. Do I have to think that every time someone cuts me off in traffic, that they're a divine being also? That I have to remember that? Or I've been waiting online in the supermarket and someone just comes up and says, "I only have a loaf of bread, can I go ahead of you?" Everything. Everything. Because this is what it means, that every breath we take comes with the awareness that we are in relationship with everything and every being on this planet. Wow, there's billions of them out there. Right? Full-time job. Full-time job. And with the ones you're living with, it may be even more of a challenge than the ones in China. There might be 1 billion of them in China, but they're not right there every day challenging your belief system. Yeah. How clear can you be? How centered on this relationship? You know, I spent 20-some years as a monastic. And I know this, it's a very mystical thing to people. Oh, what's it like being a monk? Oh, what could that be like? And they say, oh, it must be amazing. You have all this time to just meditate. They don't realize that you are not married to one person. You are married to the entire monastery. You have not one husband. You have many, metaphorically speaking. Don't get any ideas there. You have all these relationships that are very complicated and long-term. They don't go away. And it seems to me that this is really the crux of the spiritual life. Yes, you can sit and meditate. Yes, you must sit and meditate in order to remember who we are. All the practices, the prayer, the chanting. Could you feel the unity after we chanted with each other? Yeah. However, what do you do with that when you have finished chanting? When you get up from your meditation? How much of that goes into your life? How much reflects who you are? You know, the beautiful, beautiful tradition that is in India and we have brought over of putting a dot a red dot often, can be also ash, depending if you're more of the mother or of Shiva, whichever one, right at this point. And it's a very beautiful ritual that comes from an ancient way that many people don't even know nowadays. Even I'll ask Indian people, and they, oh, it's just a cosmetic mark. But it's a very, very important symbol. And what happens is in the morning after your meditation or after your puja, your formal service that you do, a little worship service, the candle is extinguished. So the candle originally, you bring the light, this is how it was come, from your heart. Now, it's interesting that all the major traditions tell us the same thing. We live in our hearts. And that light in the center of the heart is who we are. Very, very beautiful. I actually, when I was translating the Secret Power of Yoga, that some of you know, some of you may not know, first time in forever, that these sutras have been translated by a woman from a heart-centered perspective. And when I did this, I really looked at all the other translations, and most of them are from a mental aspect. They come from controlling the thought waves of the mind, etc. And you know, the mind is a very new concept. Did you know that? Very new concept, within a couple of 100 years. The ancients never talked about the mind because they didn't think about the mind. The mind and the heart were one. Right? So the translation that I give on Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha is yoga is the uniting of consciousness in the heart. And many people say to me, where did you get that from? It's so clearly in the Upanishads, so clearly there. It says that we live as a small light or flame. Who's we? The higher self, the divine self, in the center of the heart as a small light or flame. It says nothing about controlling the thought waves in the mind. It's the heart. So when we go back into the heart and find this light, this flame, we know that this is the true self. So in this formal worship service, what we do, if it's private, if it's done in your own home, not necessarily in a temple, it's a little bit different. You take the light symbolically out of your heart and you light the lamp or the candle with this beautiful flame. And in that way, you can worship it now. It would be very awkward to try to worship yourself, right? But this way, you can worship it. So you put some flower petals, a little nice scented water, you offer some fruits and beautiful things, you wave a lamp, you do all these wonderful things to this light that you're pretending isn't you. And then at the end, something very sweet happens. You take that light and flame and you put it back in your heart. And then you take a little powder, again, can be red or ash, and you put it right here. So what you're saying is, I remember who I am. When anyone looks at you throughout the day, instead of saying, oh, nice pants, or not such nice dress, or something like that, instead of that, they go, ah, namaste. I and you are the same. We're not different. We're the same. Namaste. And that's what that means. That's what that means. So we don't have those outward symbols in our society. Would be nice. We don't have that. So our relationships have to be based on our memory and remembering somebody is in their heart. I am also. The closest we have to that, very interesting, is if I say to you, and I will now, and I say to you, tell me who you are, tell me your name. Where do you point? You say, I am, where do you point? Everybody, do that. Yeah. You say, I am Nischala Devi. Right? You don't say, I am Nischala Devi. Right? Maybe, I'm Nischala Devi. Right? So we're saying immediately in introducing ourselves, my relationship with you is in the heart. Right? But we forget. We forget. Because instead of looking here, I'm looking at the clothes. I'm looking at the color. I'm looking at where the persons came from, their language. I'm starting to put more identification on them instead of less. And what that does, it moves my relationship with that person further away. The more adjectives I put with that person, the more nouns I put with that person, the further my heart is from uniting with theirs. And this is what happens to us. Until we get that union again, healing is very difficult because healing means wholeness. If there's no wholeness, we can't have that healing. So in our relationships, whether it's a stranger, whether it's a partner, whether it's a brother, sister, mother, father, whatever it is, if we can go back to the heart and touch them from that heart level, everything changes. Everything changes. No matter what they've done, no matter what we think they've done. Because a lot of this is only in our mind anyway. Do you know that? People say, you acted this way to me. I said, I didn't even see you. You walked right by me without saying hello because I didn't see you. I was thinking about something else. Oh no, I know you're angry at me. I'm not angry at you. Right? Where is it coming from? It's coming from our own projection. So how do we get around this? How do we get back to it? By constantly remembering who we are. Constantly. Constantly. The identification begins to come back to the mirror. I have a little practice for you. It's a very interesting practice. You can do this tonight, even, when you go back. As you're standing in front of the mirror and brushing your teeth, get a little bit closer and look into your own eyes. And just look in there. Who's in there? Who do I see? Can I see the light? And people are embarrassed. Oh, I don't know if I don't look in. Or, oh, another wrinkle, another gray hair. So we're looking again superficially. Look at night, and then in the morning again, look in there again. Keep looking until you can find who's in there. Because again, the primary relationship is with yourself, not with someone else. When you have the balance of relationship within your own being, the other relationships are easy. The marriage, I'm smiling because the marriage ceremony is a very interesting ceremony. And many people today, it's about the dress. They're very concerned about it. And they're up there and somebody just reads. And well, I did a lot of research on this marriage when we got married. And I wanted to know what everything meant. It was very important to me. Why did these traditions happen? And it's fascinating because most wedding ceremonies end with what? The kiss, right? Yeah. Most end with a kiss. And we even talk about sealed with a kiss. Something is sealed with a kiss. Do you know what happens during that kiss? Very interesting. It comes from the ancient Greeks that they sealed marriages with a kiss. Because what they believed, and if you go back and you see the words, the word for breath and the word for spirit were the same. Same thing in the Hebrew tradition. Ruach, the name for breath and the name for spirit. So they felt at the end of the ceremony that when two people kissed each other, they exchanged their spirits with each other. So now I breathe him in, he breathes me in. If our spirits are exchanged and there's only one spirit, we know that. That is the real union. That's the moment that this union takes place. It's not about passion as much as exchanging that. And from then on, we are one in spirit. Never or rarely are we one in mind. It seems to be the nature of relationships, right? One person sees it and thinks this, another person sees it and thinks that. I remember this was a very funny time. This couple came to me, and she was very, very upset. And she said to me, my husband started reading the Bhagavad-Gita. I said, well, why are you upset? And she said, because he found a passage that convinced him to convince me that he should buy a motorcycle. I said, wow, this is fascinating. It's an ancient scripture. I didn't know they had motorcycles in the days of Krishna. Can you show me where that is in the scripture? So she brought him back the next day, and they brought the Bhagavad-Gita, and they opened the Gita, and he said, there it is. And I read it, and it says, if you thwart anger, if you thwart desire, it becomes anger. I don't think I should get angry, he said. Therefore, I should get the motorcycle that I want. So here's two people looking at the same thing with a totally different meaning to it. So minds can't always do this. That's why we have to go to the hearts. When the two hearts come together, it's a very different feeling because of the light in the heart. I remember Swami Satchidananda used to talk about if two heads to come together, it makes a big clunk. Right? But if two hearts to come together, it just smushes and they join each other and they share the light. So I think sometimes the mistake that we make is trying to have the other person think like we do. Instead, why don't we go to the feeling and the spirit and the respect and the honor and the love? This is how healing happens. I spend a lot of time working with the medical community. That's what seems to be a dharmic thing with me. And one of the things that I find is lacking is this whole relationship issue. When someone comes in, if you're a physician, you feel that you are there to serve that person. It's not always the case. There's a feeling that I know and you don't know. I remember a situation where my mother was very, very ill, and it was really medical mismanagement. And I went in and I talked to the doctor, her doctor, and I said to him, "You're fired." He looked at me, he said, "You can't do that." I said, "I just did." It was astonishing because he forgot the relationship, that we're all in this together, that there has to be a community. There's the patient, the doctor, and the family. No one is sick in isolation. We are sick in a community, and we get well in community. All this happens. And this is something we have to change. They're talking about reforming the healthcare system. There's a lot more reformation that has to come. The reforming has to come with love and respect and ahimsa for each other. And I know some of you may be going into this yoga therapeutics now. This is something for us to remember, that we have to feel honored that someone comes into our way. We feel humbled that they have come to us at a time where they need the most help. When I went to have Ayurvedic treatment in India the first time, I'd had many treatments, of course, in the United States of different kinds, massage, etc. Matter of fact, one of my favorite massage therapists is here right now today. And one of the reasons is because of how she acts. And I remember going into this place in India, and they had me sit on a little stool. You're a little embarrassed at first because you're not wearing much. Matter of fact, anything. But you're sitting there. And she came in and immediately went to the little altar. And she said a prayer, lit the lamp, said another prayer, waved some incense. And then she took the oil and she came over and bowed to me. Anointed my feet, my hands, and my head, as if I was the deity. And from there, the treatment began. How could it not be healing? It's impossible for that to happen, right? Already the healing had begun. I instantly started to cleanse through my eyes. Tears started to come. This is the idea of respect, that everyone you meet is that divine being, holds that within themselves. Then healing is easy. Healing doesn't have to be a formal thing. It can be you sit down next to someone in a restaurant, on a bus. But when you show someone that kind of love and respect, the energy immediately goes. That little tiny flame in the heart suddenly kindles and becomes brighter, becomes stronger, more powerful. And it suddenly consumes the whole being. And they are no longer the small light within. They are now a being of light that goes and shares their light with everyone. So this is really the relationship that we have to cultivate, but first with ourselves. So remember, when you sit in the morning or evening or whenever you do in your meditation, don't leave it at the altar. Take that with you. All day, have that follow you around and realize that everyone else has that, is that at the same time. It's so powerful. And the world then, the mother will be happy. The billions of people will feel it, because nothing happens without us feeling everything. Isn't that true? Yeah. Any questions? Really? Drink from both glasses so nobody feels bad. Okay. Should we do a little meditation? You have any thought? Question? No? Okay. Yeah, me too. I don't know whether I was so clear or so confusing. Yes?
I have a question. Maybe it could be a silly question, but I still came into my mind when you thought about it. And the babies coming to the world, and they are so pure and they trust the world. And I was just thinking of myself that maybe I'm overly kind of worried. For example, when we get out of our cars and I always want to make sure that the car is locked, our apartment is locked. So, I don't know, it's something really wrong thing from my side. I should just leave my car open and the apartment open. And then at the same time it comes to my mind, the master has a story when two ladies, or three ladies, I don't know exactly how many of them they were kind of careless and they never locked their car. And he told them that you should watch it a little better. And they didn't listen to him, and something happened to the car. It got stolen or something. So, but in me there is a contradiction that what's the right thing to do now in this world?
Everybody understand the question? I'm going to quote from the Quran, if I might. It says, "Trust in God and tie your camel." You live in LA. You need to use a little common. Here, not so much. But so, and it's like that. It's don't put the fear in it. Just lock it. Right? Do you understand what I mean? Because you can do that too. Just lock it. And that's it. But that's the idea. You can have total trust, but still tie the camel up. Because the camel might run away, and it may be your only camel. And they're not cheap. Getting camels. So, and sometimes you'll walk away and you'll think, I need to go back and do that. That's your intuition talking to you again. So if you're in LA, I would definitely lock the car and the house. If you're out here, I wouldn't worry about it. But the thing is, it's so ingrained in you that you probably would lock the car here too, because it becomes a habit. So, and this is what the thing about the spiritual teachings, I think that we really have to, and I think that's why it's called a spiritual wisdom. I don't like when people use the word spiritual philosophy. I don't think it's a philosophy. I think it's a wisdom, and the more that you employ it, the more wisdom it brings you. And because you look at it, we were just talking about this earlier, actually. I used to travel all over the world with Swami Satchidananda, and I saw him in all different ways. And the people who lived in the ashram didn't. They only saw him in a particular box, and that was the box, and he would say certain things at the ashram. And I would come back to the ashram, and I would say something, and they'd say, no, that's against Swamiji's teachings. And they said, Swamiji said to do it this way. And after a while, I said I wanted to write a book saying, Swamiji also said to do it that way. Because, and this is a typical example. We were somewhere, this is very funny. Actually, we were in San Francisco. And there was somebody driving, and I was sitting in the back seat. We were going somewhere. And so the person came up to a yellow light. Okay, well, we all do this at yellow lights. Like, you assess the situation. Should I stop? Is it time to go through? Is there a car behind me? And it has to be quick, because you have to make that decision. But the person felt, well, Swamiji was in the car, and he didn't want to take a risk going through the light, so he put the brakes on pretty strong. Not slammed them, but pretty strong. And Swamiji had to hold on to the dashboard because he was going forward. And we're sitting at the red light, and Swamiji says, so why did you stop at the yellow light? So he said, well, Swamiji, I thought I didn't want to go through and take a chance of getting hit by another car. And he said, do you realize that it made everyone in the car jerk forward and then back again? Yes, Swamiji. Okay. Then the light turned green, we went on. Next day, same car, same driver, same routing, right? I'm in the back seat again. So this time, this person said, aha, I learned my lesson. I'm not going to do the same thing again. He gets to the yellow light, floors it, goes through the yellow light, makes it to the other side without it turning red, slows down, and Swamiji goes, so, why did you go through the yellow light? Well, Swamiji, yesterday you told me not to stop at the yellow light. He said, that was yesterday. Today, there might have been a car coming and you could have gotten us all killed. And this poor guy is sitting there and going, what do I do? Right? What you do is the right thing for that moment. And that's how we have to live our lives and assess it. This is the difficult thing. The awareness has to be there all the time. So I always remember that because it's such a funny thing to think about that. And we always use the expression, that was the truth then, this is the truth now, because circumstances change. So lock that door, especially if you're in LA. Yes, Nischala.
So what advice would you give to young people and older people too, who are teachers or healers? What would be your main advice that you would give them for working with?
The main advice that I would give somebody is stay in your heart. Because if you move to your mind, you've lost the other person. Because that's where we're the same in the heart. The minds are different. The hearts are the same. And we want to go to the heart. We want to go to the mind. I know what you need. You may not know, but I do. I've studied all these. I wrote a book on it. I know what you need. I have to stay in my heart. Then you'll know what you need. Yeah. And that's something that's so difficult because we all want to, and we're good people. Aren't we all good people? Yeah, we're all good people. We all want to make people feel better. I want to take away all your problems. I can't do that. But I can sit there with you and feel the love in my heart with you. That I can do. And that's the real healer. I've seen it thousands and thousands of times. But if I think that I know what you need, we've both lost. Yeah. And that's difficult. Just sitting and being with someone. Yeah.
Nischala,
Yes.
I had a profound experience in your class one time. I don't know doing to advertise your class. It's very interesting. All my profound experiences is what I can say opened up my heart. We were in a class of yoga for the heart, and we were doing all physical things, and we were watching these hearts get open, and we were doing all these things. And tell you the truth, I wasn't really into that. But the thing that happened at the end of your class, our hearts got open. And I'm sure it's not the first time it happened in your class. It's just, it was such a profound experience. It's one of my major experiences in my life, I think, is after classes, like, things are different. Why? You know, why wouldn't we just think of the heart, and we're talking about the heart, and what exactly is the profound experience of opening in a heart, and why does it take place so elegantly in your class? How's that?
I think it's magic. It's magic. There's a magic in the heart that we have not even begun to tap into. And it's such a secret that's not a secret. But somehow we're all resistant to do that. And when you spend 10 days thinking about it, talking about it, feeling it, experiencing it, feeling compassion for another person, I don't think you don't stand a chance against your own heart opening. You can't help it. And then once it does, once you feel that expansion, nothing's the same again. So I'm happy that you had that. And it is a magic, and I've seen it happen over and over, and I can't explain it because the heart can't explain things. Only the mind explains things. There's a beautiful quote, not my quote, but a beautiful quote, and it says, "The heart has reasons that reason knows nothing of." And I think that's what happens. That's what happens. And sometimes people will come to me with all kinds of experiences, heart-opening, spiritual experiences, and say to me, "Can you explain this?" And I say, absolutely not. The mind might try to, but the more the mind tries to explain something, the less the experience becomes real. You just have to be with the heart. And I think that's what happens when you sit with someone without trying to make them better. There's a magic that happens, that a transformation, a meeting of hearts, a relationship with the hearts that come together that can't be explained. And I think this is the problem with Western medicine. They want things that they can explain. They don't like things they can't explain. And healing is something that can't be explained. Curing can be explained. You can take an antibiotic and get rid of your bacterial infection. That can be explained. But how you come together as a whole person can't really be explained. And I'm happy that it can't be explained. Because then we'd want to quantify it, and then we'd want to make it into a formula and sell it, and somebody would brand it, brand name it. You can't do that. You can't do that. So far, no one has sold love. And I'm so happy because you can just give it away. Because there has to be a focus of remembering who they are, not just what they're saying at that moment. Sometimes you may not even like what they're saying at that moment. But don't mistake that for them. They're in there. They're just covered up right now by a lot of thoughts. And the more you see them as that divine, the more they'll come back to who they are again. Yeah. And so it's practice. It's the hardest practice, I think. Yeah. But the most important. Because again, and this is something fun, you're sitting there and you're having a relationship in meditation, but no one's talking back to you. No one's being mean to you. You're just having a quiet time there. But that's the real deity that you're sitting next to. That's the real aspect of the divine. And can you have that same relationship with them? It's not always easy. Yeah. Sometimes even looking at the color of their shirt or their tie or their earrings, say, "Oh, that earrings are so beautiful." And they say, that takes you into, this is one of my favorite practices, by the way. It's called Pratyaksha Bhavana. It means, bhavana is, it comes from the same root word as our verb to be. So it's a way of being. And Pratyaksha means to switch it, to turn it around. It's funny, I have some stories in the sutra book about Pratyaksha Bhavana, and people tell me that was the one practice they do all the time. Because if you're on the phone and they put you on hold and you get music, united. I used to love Rhapsody in Blue. Now I can't stand Rhapsody in Blue because it's the United's theme song. And you hear it for a half an hour in that crackly sounding thing. It's not fun anymore. But if you're sitting there and you're writing a mantra, it changes the mind. If you look at someone, you think, oh God, he's going to come in, he's going to say something now. And you think, oh, what a pretty color shirt he's wearing today. It switches everything. Then eventually you get into, oh, he's a divine being. Right? But in the beginning, look at the shirt color, look at the earrings, look at the other parts. Don't expect to just change everything overnight. Slowly. And feel that you can take baby steps with it. Yeah. But it works. It works. I used to sit at boring meetings during our research project. You know, they were talking about things I wasn't interested in. And I would sit there, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. They thought I was taking copious notes, you know. And then they would call on me and they'd say, well, what? You seem to be taking, what do you think about this? I said, I totally agree with that, whatever you're saying. Om Shanti, Om Shanti. I was always peaceful. I never got upset during the meeting because I was somewhere else doing that. Yeah. And sometimes you have to listen too. So that's okay. That's okay. Listen to what is coming through them rather than the words. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a minute to go back within. And let's use this little light in our heart. So please close the eyes and take a nice deep breath. Let it out slowly. And bring your awareness to the light in the center of the heart. And feel each time that you inhale, that light brightens. And with each exhalation, you send out light in the form of love. And allow this light to expand till it fills the entire body. The body of light. And each time you inhale, it brightens. And with each exhalation, your capacity to give out light and love increases. And allow the light to expand past the periphery of your own body and embrace the person next to you. So from the individual, we become one light. And as you inhale, that light brightens. And with each exhalation, sending out light and love. And let the light continue to expand and moving out through the windows and the doors, covering the entire Ananda, into the village, touching each of the people. And flowing down through the roads, the valleys, into the streams, flowing into the rivers, the land, north and south, east and west, until this light covers the entire globe. And each time you inhale, it brightens. And with each exhalation, every living thing on this planet is showered with love. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. May all be blessed with peace and joy, love and light. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Namaste. Thank you all. Beautiful. Don't forget each other.